First up, he's a neuroscientist and author and host of the Waking Up podcast. My friend Sam Harris is over here. Hey, that's a good sign. How are you, my friend? Oh, hey. That's a good sign. They like you.
Yes, well,
yeah,
give him a minute.
So I thought it was time we had a talk, because I knew early on in Trump's administration he would do something stupid about Muslims.
Yes.
And he did. I think we both agree his ban, I've always said it's stupid, it's counterproductive, it's un-American. But let's get that right out of the way first, that we both think this is a dumb idea, the Muslim ban, right?
Yeah,
because we're liberals.
He is, first of all, Trump is like Chauncey Gardner's evil twin. I mean, he's, you know, if he does something right on this issue, it'll be by accident.
Yeah.
And the ban itself is just the sort of idea you'd think he would come up with and press enthusiastically. It's a terrible idea, even if your only concern is security, right? And that's not our only concern. I hope we get to that topic. But, I mean, we have to win a war of ideas with the Muslim world, and we need allies.
Right.
And we
it's not about immigrants, it's about ideas.
Yeah, and we want, yes, the ideas cross borders. I mean, immigration is just one part of this problem, but we should be desperate to have moderate Muslims in this society. We want moderate Muslims. And
ones who speak out. I thought it was great when London elected a Muslim mayor, because when you elect someone mayor, then they have to say out loud our Western values. And he has. He doesn't even like it when women cover their face.
Yeah, and when you view this as a war of ideas, you see that we need to empower the actual reformers in the Muslim world. So and the way to do that is not to put up a blanket ban.
Also because you never know what is in someone's mind. Do you remember this, just last year, the Strasbourg cell that they broke up in France?
Yeah,
that's what they called it? Okay, I remember the headline in the New York Times a few days after said, "Terror suspects led mainstream lives, unsettling France."
Right.
Because you don't know what's in. They were saying they don't have beards. The guy was he ran the grocery. He sold liquor.
Right.
He was not scowling. He was smiling at the children. You don't know what is in people's minds.
Yeah, but also only, I mean, all these people are related to other people, right? So only secular, liberal, and former Muslims, frankly, can police this for us. I mean, this is a war of ideas, a civil war of ideas that has to happen within the Muslim community, and we have to help them win it. But we don't do that by putting up a blanket ban against Muslims. And I mean, you've had people on your show which are exactly the sort of people we want empowered, like Azra Nomani and Ayaan Hirsi Ali, and I mean, my colleague Majid Nawaz.
Raheel, I think.
Yeah, Raheel Raza.
Raheel Raza. So.
But I mean, the reason why you should view this as a war of ideas and be at least hopeful, but potentially hopeful about it, is that minds change. I mean, so to Majid, who's been on your show, he was a former extremist. He spent 4 years in an Egyptian prison for his nefarious activities. He's now as reasonable and ethical a person as you're ever going to meet. And yet he is now demonized by some subset of the Muslim community and the left as an Uncle Tom, right? That's the kind of thing that only empowers Trump.
And I think, yes, right. I mean, you talked about in your last blog the fact that Azra Nomani, who's been on our show, and who I think is exactly what you're talking about, the kind of person we want to empower. You said she voted for Trump.
Yeah.
She's a liberal. She doesn't like him. But she feels like for the issue that matters to her, you're empowering the wrong people. You're the ones who are oppressing me, liberals. That's where they go. And I think what we're trying to say is, we're trying to find ways to disempower Donald Trump, and the left is often not helping.
Yeah, well, exactly. So to take Azra's case, you know, in the immediate aftermath of Orlando, we have Clinton talking about gun control only, and then admonishing the whole country not to be racist, right? Now, you can't say that jihadism has no relationship to Islam, right? And so people like Azra, who are fed up with this, and there are millions of them, said, this is just too galling to see, and the president, you know, has been lying for 8 years about this. Now, it's not to say he hasn't been flying drones.
The old president.
Yeah, but you know, presumably he's not been bombing the Amish, right? So he knows that this has some relationship to Islam.
Yeah, he said in his final address, he said, we've taken out tens or 10,000 terrorists, and I'm sure most of them, or if not all of them, were ones who believed in the Quran. That seems like an awful lot if you're just saying this is the fringe.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's not just the fringe. I mean, the problem is
The fringe is probably just the people who are actually violent.
Well, I mean, so there's again, the last time we were here, and this is where, you know, we'll begin saying things that will piss off people, and if Batman were here, he would call us a racist. But, I mean, yes, it's so they're jihadists who will use violence immediately and who are expecting to get into paradise when they blow themselves up on an airplane.
And again, size matters. I mean, there are entire terrorist armies. ISIS, obviously, Boko Haram, Al-Qaeda. I mean, this just doesn't, people talk about the KKK like it's an equivalent. The KKK is not seeking
that is a genuine
weapons.
Fringe phenomenon. But when you take jihadists and Islamists who want Sharia law, they just want to use the levers of a state to get it. They're not committing violence immediately. And then you just have a larger subset of conservative Muslims who, while they may not have any alliance with jihadists, they still have attitudes around free speech and the rights of women and the rights of gays that are deeply at odds with our own, and we have to win a war of ideas with these people. This is not you don't fly drones to solve this problem, and so this is why we need to empower real reformers.
I know you were having a bit of a Twitter spat sometimes with this woman, Linda Sarsour, am I saying that right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, she was at the march, and you know, you mentioned that she tweets things like sort of semi-supportive of Saudi Arabia, saying because they give women maternity leave more than we do.
Yeah.
They have some.
Well, this is the problem. So the left has allied itself with Islamists and closet Islamists, and she's none too closeted, but she's a hijabi, and the hijab was promoted as one of the empowering symbols of feminism for this march, right? And she's one of the organizers.
But that's not the full burqa.
No.
The burqa. No. Show the picture of the burqa. You see, like this is what I want liberals to understand. That like there are some countries, I think France has banned this. I'm not for banning. I think that's not the right approach, is to tell anybody how they can dress, but also stop saying that's normal. Well, that's not normal.
So,
if you think that's normal, you are so part of the problem. There is a human being in there who might want to feel the sun on her face or make eye contact or register a smile.
And most are not there voluntarily. That's the thing. I mean, you're not for banning. I mean, you should be able to wear whatever costume you want, but the subset of people who are wearing these things purely because they want to, without being coerced by their community, right? Without having a level of misogyny.
Or brainwashed from centuries. I mean, but no one wants to be that. And also, I mean, why are they covering women like that? Because otherwise men might get aroused.
Right.
So they're blaming the women for the men's horniness. I mean, if you were, I mean, you couldn't create in a lab a idea that should be more opposed by liberals. Then we cover the women and blame them if men get horny.
And we have one of this woman you mentioned, Linda Sarsour. She's one of the organizers of the Women's March. She has people like Bernie tweeting, "I march with Linda," right? But she's someone who has gone after Ayaan Hirsi Ali, who's a real feminist hero, and she's tweeted absolutely defamatory things at her, like she doesn't deserve her vagina, she deserves an ass whipping. I mean, she's a theocrat, right?
Why is it that liberals here seem to just really want to, from a gut level, jump immediately always to, we're just as bad? Because we've been bad, we've done a lot of bad things. But on this issue, especially right now, at this point in history, not every culture is equally bad. What is that? Is that just self-loathing?
Well, there are two things. I mean, one, just let's take that claim. Take our quirky religions, right? If the Scientologists were practicing suicide bombings in dozens of countries,
right?
If they were killing people for drawing pictures of L. Ron Hubbard, right?
Right.
Tom Cruise would have more to answer for than he does, right? And he's got a fair amount to answer for. If the Mormons were trying to kill Trey Parker and Matt Stone over their Broadway play, we would lose our patience for Mormonism, right? So. So it's a massive double standard here, but this is the needle we have to thread, and this is the problem you and I have been getting into for 15 years. we have to, on the one hand, acknowledge that there are valid criticisms of misuses of American power and colonialism, and we want to help refugees, right? We want to, these people in Syria are the unluckiest people in the world, right? And if they don't pose a security concern, we should welcome them into our society, right? We don't want to look at the Statue of Liberty and think,
But also, you're not automatically a racist if you have concerns about assimilation.
Exactly.
Because of the ideas that we're talking about, there are sometimes assimilation problems. I don't think we have a lot of that in America because...
Well, but because we've been lucky with these two oceans, right? And so we have to acknowledge that Europe has a problem we don't want to have.
It's America. People, if a Muslim here in America wants to take off the thing, she can.
Yeah.
And she's... she can do that without fear of someone beating her for it. I mean, if someone wants to come out of the closet here in America, if someone wants to marry a non-Muslim, these are not options available to vast amounts of Muslims in the world. So let's address the question that they're saying now, who hate us, which is you paint with too broad a brush, because we mentioned some of these things.
Right.
And let's just, I don't think, we paint with a brush. It's neither too broad.
We're painting with statistics, right? I mean, like you're talking about 43% of this and 78% of this. And on any specific question, these numbers can move around, but the numbers are never consoling, right? When you ask the Muslims in the UK whether you want to live under Sharia law, right, or whether the Danish cartoonist should be imprisoned, right, you don't get the tiny numbers you would hope to get, right? And that's a problem that we have to speak honestly about. And just as you just said, you don't have to be a fascist or a racist or even a Trumpian to not want to import people into your society who think cartoonists should be killed for drawing the profit, right? That's a totally rational thing not to want. And the left has been demonizing anyone who will talk about this.
Right. And I would say to you, finally, you know, asking you, what is the proper liberal response? And I think it begins with, yes, understanding that we are never going to defeat terrorism if we don't reform Islam.
Yes.
And we are not going to reform Islam if we can't talk about it.
And if Muslims can't talk about it.
And Muslims can't.
If we don't encourage, empower, and oblige Muslims to talk honestly about this, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Sam. I appreciate you coming here and giving us the real deal, as always. Sam Harris, everybody.